Welcome to Base Space, a crypto podcast. Base Space.
Welcome to the Base Space. For those listening in, maybe new, it's hosted by myself, the Crypto Mewtwo, Chase Coins, and Super High, and we focus on creating opportunities for growth, networking, and education in the crypto industry. Today we're on to have Brantly, Director of Operations at ENS. Welcome to the show, Brantly.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Pretty awesome. I'm talking to Mewtwo. I didn't know Mewtwo had gotten into crypto.
Dude, the one and only. You know I'm on top of things.
Mewtwo was like, it was kind of always funny because it was just like the second one of something, but he was like the best Pokemon, wasn't he? Something. I don't know. That's what I remember.
Did you play any of the like Game Boy games, like Blue or Red?
I did, yes. Yeah. I mean, back in the day.
Let's go. That's what we like to hear. I mean, dude, I can't wait for Pokemon to drop their first NFTs.
Oh man,
So
it's obvious. Yeah, it's inevitable. I mean, it may happen sooner or later, but it's inevitable.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw. I don't know if you follow like Pokemon and the whole Logan Paul scandal.
I did. I saw that video. That was incredible.
Yeah, kind of bullish for NFTs, right? Like.
Yeah, that's right.
Fraudulent box,
question of the provenance and the history and everything. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's crazy.
$1 billion.
Can we take a second to admire Brantly's hexagon Abby real quick?
I did see that.
I just realized that. That's so cool.
Yep. I mean, look, all I'm going to say is there's the hexagons and there's the circles on Twitter. That's it.
We are not the same. I got to upgrade.
It's cool. I mean, look, right? I'm impressed just like more that Justin Taylor and co were capable of like navigating a big kind of older Web 2 company to successfully create and ship some new cutting edge thing like that. That's impressive to me. Like, whoa, you know what I mean? Like most companies, they kind of harden up, they do their thing and that's it. But this is very impressive to me that Twitter's doing this.
Yeah. How much do you think that kind of goes to credit for, I mean, the way I view Twitter, I feel like Twitter is kind of the premier social media presence and platform when it comes to blockchain and crypto.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, they are now. I mean, I'd say there have been 3. Sorry, I've had this persistent cough here. I had COVID earlier this month. It was mild, short, but I just have this lingering cough. I'd say there's been like 3 eras. So the beginning of Bitcoin and everything, the locus of conversation was on bitcointalk.org, right? And so you go to bitcointalk.org, it still exists, and you can like read all the original posts, like Satoshi and like the original debates. And a fascinating thing about it is that a lot of the same things that our people are debating today, it was all there at the beginning. Like it's kind of incredible. People realized kind of the contours of how this thing was maybe going to develop pretty early on, and now we're just still kind of living that out. And a lot of the even ideas of what's happening on Ethereum now, a lot of those ideas originated early on, on bitcointalk.org years ago. That was the first era. Then, of course, the second era was Reddit. So at some point, everything transitioned to Reddit, and Reddit was the locus of conversation of the cryptocurrency space for many years. In fact, it actually was one subreddit, was like where everything was. It was r/Bitcoin. Like that was it. That was the conversation in the world. And turned out that one subreddit. Do you guys know this story? Am I telling you something you guys already know?
Nope. Keep going.
Okay, this is like critical to like understand the history of how we got here. That one subreddit had as the head moderator one person named Themos, Theymos. Okay, and he has a real name. I can't remember what it is, but it's public if you Google it or something. Okay, and in 2015, a big debate broke out about should Bitcoin raise its block size limit or not? Should it have small blocks or bigger blocks? And people were debating it, which was fine. But Thamos, he was a small blocker, and he said, I'm the head moderator. I'm just going to ban anybody who disagrees with me. This was a huge deal because literally there was no other place for people to talk. It was a huge deal, and it caused a huge rift. And it even helped Ethereum early on because there was a huge brain drain of people in 2016 who were so fed up with the terrible tactics of that they left the Bitcoin community for Ethereum in like 2016, 2017. Anyway, that was the Reddit era, and then everything kind of switched over to Twitter. Now just Twitter's one big group chat.
Yeah, man, that's wild. I have heard that story before, but it's really good to get it on record and for people that might not be familiar with it. Kind of curious, Brantly, like what was your like first exposure into crypto? Like how did you originally get started?
I first heard about Bitcoin in early 2013. There was usually in bull runs, there's a run up in the spring and then a 60% drop and then another run up at the end of the year. That happened in 2013. Bitcoin went from like $10 to $200 for the first time. It was in the news. I started following it then. But then I'd say it was at the very beginning of 2015, I'd say it's sort of like a conversion moment a little bit where it was sort of something I was interested in, but then it became like a full-time passion. It's been a full-time passion since early 2015.
That's amazing. And what kind of led you over to ENS? Like, have you worked at other crypto companies before starting there, or how'd you end up?
Well, so in the pre-Ethereum era, there really honestly wasn't much going on because there's not much to do with Bitcoin. There were a couple of companies and a few things going on, but there wasn't much to do. We were debating these like protocol parameters like the block size limit. Then with Ethereum, of course, like massively changed the whole game because now we have this huge explosion of new types of things and non-currency use cases and all these things. It's incredible. And it's created a much, much bigger ecosystem of more companies and things going on. And I remember when ENS launched in 2017, May 2017, I was just a user. I created my own website, something called flippening.watch in summer 2017, which was comparing Bitcoin and Ethereum on certain parameters. And Ethereum actually came very close to flipping Bitcoin in 2017. It got to be 85% of the way there, like way closer than it's been anytime soon. But people thought it was going to happen. It didn't. It became the floppening. But I had that website that was kind of popular then. I was involved in some smaller projects in 2018. And at the very end of 2019, I applied for a job on the ENS core team, and I started January 2019. I've been there since then.
That's amazing. And obviously, like you've been there for quite some time, director of operations. I'm kind of curious, like throughout your time at ENS, like what has been like one of the most important lessons that you've learned by being in the crypto space?
Yeah, it's funny. Actually, I think tomorrow is my 3-year anniversary. That's incredible how long it's been. Here's one. You don't know how things will play out until they play out. And what I mean by that is let me give a couple applications of this principle. I think this is actually really important for newcomers to know because I think many newcomers get tricked by not understanding this. If somebody says, I'm going to build X technology, if it's never been done before, it doesn't exist yet, it may never exist. Even if the people seem like they have good backgrounds and they seem earnest and they even think they're going to, and they have a clear path technologically, if it doesn't actually exist yet, it might not ever exist. Because whenever you try to build new technology, you always run into unexpected problems. Oh, that thing you thought you had a solution, but actually it's harder than you thought, or whatever it is, happens all the time. So just because some projects in their marketing says we're going to do this or we will do this, so many newcomers, they think, well, then it's going to happen. No, it might, but actually it probably won't because new technology is hard. Another application of that principle to me is like a lot of people try to do like game theory predictions of what people will do or how people will react to certain technologies, and people are almost always wrong. Like, I've been through so many cycles of people saying, well, this is what's going to happen if we do this or if we do that or blah blah blah, or here's how people are going to use it. Very smart people using their good arguments, and then we let it play out, and it's like nothing anybody predicted. I mean, a great example of this is like the whole NFT craze. Like, let me tell you, it was not the conventional wisdom, even in the deep, hardcore crypto people, even a year ago, that anything like this NFT craze would have happened. I mean, this really came out of nowhere. I mean, like, another example would be, I remember back in the day, people said hard fork upgrades can't ever happen because people won't be able to have enough consensus. You'll always have chains left behind. And now Ethereum, does it all the time. So look at what actually happens and be humble enough to revise your views based on, experience and the facts.
Yeah, it's a wild space. It's definitely still the Wild West, and we're still so early that so much change can happen. And I think for me personally, like the best thing I've done is try to learn at least one new thing every day, and just be open minded, right, to new ideas that you might have previously rejected, but maybe if you dug a little bit deeper into it, you would have kind of discovered that golden nugget, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Hey, Brantly, for those who are kind of new to crypto, because we do have a lot of new listeners, and we are on Spotify and YouTube, so wherever everyone's hearing this, could you tell us what ENS is and what it's used for, and then to kind of just elaborate on why ENS domains are important for Web3?
Yeah, so ENS is a decentralized identity and naming protocol. It's nonprofit, it's owned by the community, it's run by a DAO. And ENS has potential of being extremely important to the world. It has a shot at that, because it's the first time the world has ever had a decentralized identity protocol that has gotten traction. Decentralized identity protocols have not even really been possible until recently, and there have been many other attempts, just haven't really gone anywhere. In ENS, which wasn't even actually trying to be an identity protocol, but it's kind of like stumbled into that accidentally, has actually gotten significant traction. There's three main use cases with ENS names. The first is it's your portable Web3 username and profile. So in the Web2 paradigm, you have an account and profile and all that for each service. It's like siloed on each service. In Web3, you have an account that you own, you control, and you take with you to each service. This is a completely different paradigm. Like, it can be kind of confusing in your mind at first. You're like, wait, how does it work? Because like we're not used to this. But it's like having an account for the internet, and that then you use for all of your internet things. And once you flip your mind to it, you're like, oh, well, like that's like how it always should have been. You get used to it very easily. So you can have your name, like I am Brantly.eth. Nobody else has that. I can set an avatar. I can set profile data, and that can be used in any application. In fact, it's used in hundreds of apps in Web3. And we're actually working on trying to get this even used by non-crypto apps. A lot of that's coming from the Sign with Ethereum initiative. Anyway, that's the first use case. The second use case is simplified crypto payments. So you can store any cryptocurrency address. You have these long addresses, not user-friendly. Store all of your cryptocurrency addresses from different blockchains in your ENS records, and then you can receive any payment or NFT to your name. So like you can send Dogecoin to Brantly.eth. A lot of people don't know that. They think it only does Ethereum stuff, but actually it supports any blockchain. The third major use case is decentralized websites, which are pretty self-explanatory. The other key thing to know about ENS to understand it is that it has two types of names. The first type of name, it's .eth names. So people have seen those like on Twitter. Those are native to ENS. They have the full benefits of being blockchain native, so self-custody, censorship resistant, easy transferability, etc. But ENS also actually has is trying to integrate with the legacy DNS naming domain system. And what that means is that if you have a DNS domain name, you can actually import that into ENS with the same DNS ending. So for example, I have bcmilligan.com on DNS. I've imported that. And so now I also have bcmilligan.com, not .eth, that would be a different name, but bcmilligan.com on ENS. So like you can send me Dogecoin to bcmilligan.com right now. It works. And it's all using, ENS on Ethereum in the background.
And would you say that, I guess, like companies say like Walmart.com, right? So they, transfer it over to ENS. Would all the payments on, say, Walmart.com, purchases, it would just be the same thing? And, it'd go to their address now instead of, I guess, their back end payment system on Web 2, but now on Web 3, it would just go to a wallet.
Yeah, I mean, they could use it however they want. It's also be a way, let's say you're using the Walmart example. We already know that Walmart, the company, owns Walmart.com. Like that's already that. So taking real physical world identity and importing into the digital world is a very difficult problem, which we don't need to get into. But in the case of many companies, they've already done that in the sense that we all know there's no dispute at all that Walmart, the company, owns Walmart.com. So if Walmart, the company, also wanted to have an Ethereum wallet, and you want to know, is this Ethereum wallet, Ethereum's wallet, did they issue this NFT, or is this an imposter? Well, if they've imported in and own Walmart.com, and that's the name of their wallet, well, then it's Walmart, because only the owner of Walmart.com on DNS could have done that, and we all know that that's Walmart.
Super, super cool. And I had another question on just kind of like the relevance of having a user set up a subdomain rather than just like using their own domain. For instance, like say you're using a protocol and it's a wallet, right? So your name would be like your name dot the protocol's name .eth. Why not just own your name .eth?
You could. So for just normal .eth names, there's like a registration fee that scales to how long you have the name. So you can pay ahead as many years as you want. So if you want it for 10 years, you don't have to think about it. You can pay ahead 10 years, but there is just a cost. Whereas subdomains have no registration fee at all. So it's sort of like, yes, technically we could all have our own DNS domain names and be running our own email servers, have our own custom email, and some people do, but for most people, just getting a free Gmail account is good enough.
Sweet. And just my last question before I pass it on to Chase here. What would you say separates yourself from other naming or name providers?
Well, a couple of things. One, ENS, if you mean blockchain naming stuff.
Yes, blockchain.
ENS is a serious attempt at a new protocol of the internet. So it's not just some privatized product that we're selling. It's an open source, open public. There's no gatekeepers. It's owned by the community. It's credibly neutral. We're trying to build this as a new protocol of the internet. That's a unique thing about ENS. Another is ENS has far more ecosystem adoption. Like, ENS has several times more integrations than all other blockchain identity naming systems combined. I mean, it's like way ahead. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that this is like a Ethereum community-wide effort to have a decentralized identity system. So everybody kind of just adopts it by default, as opposed to it's just some some privatized closed system. And it's like, well, why would people adopt that? It doesn't have as much adoption. There's that. Yeah, I mean, there's no gatekeepers. Anybody can register a name directly themselves. They don't have to go through anything. It's run completely by a DAO. All the revenue goes back to the DAO, goes back to the ecosystem. It's back to the community. Everything is specified with EIP standards. It's all open. Yeah. Anyway.
Thank you, Brantly.
Oh, this is another key thing. ENS is forward compatible with traditional DNS. So pretty much all other blockchain naming projects out there I'm aware of actually are not. Meaning that they're using TLDs that are not reserved and are not forward compatible with DNS. And a lot of people don't know that the DNS suffix namespace expands over time. Like new endings get added, and it's highly likely that a lot of these other endings that in other projects people are selling names off of, they're just going to get added to DNS, and be sold to different people. And then because anything that exists on DNS can be imported into ENS, those things will also work on ENS. So that's another distinguishing feature.
Brantly, I wanted to circle back to kind of more like the philosophical side of things, because I really do believe that this is like a true paradigm shift in thinking about how we interact on the internet, and almost kind of in a sense, what even is the internet to begin with. I'm actually curious, like what are some of the biggest challenges that you found in educating people around the portability and the ownership of having this established presence on the internet with your own account?
Well, it's a mindset shift. It's people are very used to the old ways where we have these centralized services and we have accounts and we're customers of them. And by the way, I'm not anti Web 2. I think a lot of people make the mistake you have to be anti Web 2 to be pro Web 3. I think that's dumb. There's a lot of great things in Web 2. I think kind of central cloud computing, that paradigm does a lot of things really, really, really well. It's not going away anytime soon. I just think Web 3 is a new paradigm, and it will obsolesce certain things of Web 2, but some things of Web 2 will stick around, I think, a long time. But it's just a different mentality of like, I'm in charge of myself. There is no company I'm dealing with here. There's no customer service. Like, I have to have responsibility. And I think that a lot of people, there are some growing pains with that sometimes.
Yeah, I agree. I think it just brings more tools to the tool belt, and I think it enhances our overall experience. I think there's a lot of good things that we do have from Web 2. I mean, at the end of the day, Web 2 is what brought all of us together to chat today. So I do kind of agree with you there. I'm actually curious, like, how do you view this kind of playing out and disrupting the status quo for a lot of Web 2 players? Like, how can they pivot to stay competitive in this new paradigm shift of how we will kind of interact and operate within the internet?
Well, I'd say whenever you have a paradigm shift, sometimes some of the incumbents, will be agile enough, flexible enough that they can adapt to the new environment and they can survive the transition. But it's not uncommon that a lot of incumbents they're not capable of it. They don't have, they're too stuck, built a certain way in their culture. How they're making their money, they don't have the vision. They don't feel like they can take risks. And so, some ways, a lot of things probably won't make the transition. But there's many forces happening all at once, and sometimes things will surprise you. I mean, let's look at like e-commerce. That was a huge transition that happened, but the number one retailer in the United States by revenue, I mean, it's Walmart, and the vast majority of their stuff is just normal in-store stuff. I mean, that's kind of, maybe that'd be surprising, although Amazon is one of the most successful companies in human history and does a huge amount too, and it's growing, and Walmart's doing more online. That might be like an unexpected way things have gone. So, like e-commerce, we have that, but it didn't make the other stuff completely go away. So I don't know. We'll see how things play out.
Right. Yeah, and for those that do want to make that pivot and be a little bit more competitive in the landscape, what does that process look like for, say, a wallet or even a protocol to integrate with ENS?
I'm sorry, what's the question?
Yeah, I was saying for those companies or projects or products that do want to pivot and be a little bit more competitive in this landscape, what does that process of integration look like with ENS if you're, say, like a wallet or even a protocol?
You're saying like a Web 2 company, how should they use ENS?
Or even just a Web3 company, like what does that onboarding process look like to use the service that ENS provides?
Oh yeah. I mean, if you're a wallet, you should let people send ENS names. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's not hard to implement, and in fact, a large number of wallets do. I mean, I'd say pretty much all the top wallets do. Side comment: something if you really get into the weeds in Web3 in any category, you'll discover there's often a power law distribution, in the sense that there's a few big players, and then there's a long there's a much longer tail of like people attempting but not succeeding very well. I mean, the same thing's true of wallets. Same is true of like L1 blockchains. I mean, so many things. So yeah, if you're a wallet, just let that, and then any time you're showing somebody, let's say like an Ethereum address or something, you should be attempting what's called a reverse lookup and seeing if they have an ENS name and displaying that instead. And when you display the name, you can also display their avatar next to it. In fact, hundreds of apps do this, but it just needs to be ubiquitous. We need to completely get away from the idea that users are even looking at their 0x addresses. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. So yeah.
Yeah, and kind of pivoting a little bit to talk about the ENS token. Twitter, it was all the rave on Twitter for the airdrop. You guys did such a wonderful job with the airdrop, and I saw a lot of positive comments around Twitter. So for those that don't know, maybe could you tell us what the ENS token is and the importance it plays? I know you kind of touched on it briefly just earlier, but if you can kind of expand on that.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. So the ENS protocol has existed since May 2017, so a long time. And the core components of ENS are decentralized and self-running and they don't have any human input. So for example, like nobody can take your .eth name away from you. Like there's nothing to govern there because it's not possible. That's the core components. But there are a few parameters and aspects of the protocol where basically we don't know how to automate them yet. So for example, the pricing and registration parameters for .eth names. Like we could just set lock in stone for all time a pricing scheme for .eth names, but it's like 20 years from now, are we confident that 20 years from now that's still going to make sense, that we're going to be happy about that, or 100 years from now? And remember, we're building this for the long term. This is not just some short-term cash grab. This is I'm serious, like a new protocol of the internet. So I'm not confident that we know how to set a pricing and registration mechanism that we will forever be happy with. So that requires some human discretion, some ability to change over time. So there's something. Another thing to deal with is, well, the protocol's raising revenue, and because there is no for-profit company behind it, well, what happens to the revenue? Like, how is it spent? There needs to be some mechanism for the community to decide that. And DAOs have been around for a while, but we just thought that DAOs as a technology have improved enough. They're not perfect. I hope they'll continue to improve, but they've improved enough that we can trust a DAO with basically managing those things. So it's just a governance token. It's just a way to have more distributed and democratic control of these parts of the protocol that still require some human discretion.
And so the fees, are those distributed back to token holders as of now, or is that on the docket for the governance proposals?
You mean is the revenue given to token holders?
Yes.
No. So the revenue just goes to the ENS DAO treasury, and there is no plan for dividends. It's meant just to be spent on the ENS ecosystem and possibly on other Web3 public goods. Another key thing we have the smart contracts that run the DAO, actually mechanistically make it work. But we also have something, this was a new thing, I don't think anyone else had done before. We have something called the ENS Constitution. It's a written document on the values of the ENS project and community. And it was something actually when people claimed their tokens that they could approve or disapprove of different proposed articles for the Constitution. It was really short. It was things like, we should never build a system where we can, be taking people's names away. We shouldn't target users and things like that. And another one of those things was the money should be used for the protocol and for the furtherance of the ENS project, and not, as dividends or something. And, the Constitution's not enforced by code, but it's more like stated community norms. So I'd say that's the expectation.
Yeah, DAOs are extremely fascinating to me, like the idea. But I think there are some pitfalls currently. I'm curious, what do you think are some of the larger challenges to overcome for DAOs to be successful and have that longevity over a longer period of time? Because the way I look at it is, in a lot of DAO structures, you have varying levels of commitment, even competency within the DAO. And so I'm just curious, what do you kind of see as some of the the learning lessons that will need to be kind of like overcame to be a successful DAO over the long term?
Yeah, I mean, getting engagement, getting people involved, actually caring. I mean, this is a constant problem, of course. One thing the ENS, what we did is, it's not perfect, but it's an improvement, is from the beginning, we had a delegation model. What this means is that for you, if you have your tokens, it's one vote, one token per token. To vote, you have to delegate your tokens so that they can vote. Now, you could delegate to yourself, and then you're able to vote with your own tokens, or you can delegate to other people. And in the token claim app, when people were claiming, we pushed people to delegate to somebody who had nominated themselves, because the assumption is that the vast majority of people, they don't have time to be involved in governance. Maybe they have some opinions, maybe they don't, but they can pick maybe a community member that they know and trust, and that person can act on their behalf. And so from the beginning, we have this delegate model set up. Now, that's not perfect. There are some problems. For example, we're using a fork of the Compound DAO smart contracts. Is what everybody uses. One thing, it doesn't have a way to retire from being a delegate. So let's say for example, I'm a delegate. I have like 450,000 tokens delegated to me. That just means I have that much voting power. I don't own those tokens. I just have the voting power. Let's say I don't want to be a delegate anymore. I would just, right now, I just have to tell people on Twitter, hey, I'm not going to be a delegate anymore, delegate away from me. But most people might not know, or they don't hear, or they have to do something. I can't retire and have my votes delegated to someone else or something. There's things like that need to be developed. But we just thought that DAO technology was good enough, but I certainly hope that it will evolve over time. And the ENS DAO smart contracts are upgradable. So if better versions come out, we can vote to upgrade to the better versions, and I expect that we'll do that many times.
That's awesome. And you guys, I believe, have a multi-sig, I think 4 of 7. Could you kind of touch on the purpose of that and how that plays a part within this larger protocol?
Yeah, so that is something completely separate from the DAO. The 4.7 multisig, that's existed since 2017 and still exists today for a few things. Basically, like I said, how there's a few parameters that we don't know how to automate. They need human discretion. Well, before we had a DAO, this was basically the best we had. Well, let's just have a big multisig. The way for us to have some accountability is only one of the multi-sig holders was on the ENS team, and the other 6 were just people in the Ethereum community who are respected, who aren't involved in ENS. So, for example, Taylor Monahan from MyCrypto, or Sergey from Chainlink. I mean, he's a key holder. I mean, they're listed on the website. And for the DAO, a lot of their power just got passed to the DAO. So now the DAO is control of the pricing and registration parameters, and control of the treasury. There's a few things that the multi-sig holders still have. This requires some technical discussions, but basically, while .eth names are completely locked from anyone's control, no one can do anything with that. DNS names that are imported into ENS, actually, those are ultimately in the control of the multi-sig, and there's various reasons for that. That will probably eventually get passed to the DAO as well. But for the time being, we thought, well, the pricing and registration for .eth names and the treasury, that was kind of enough for the DAO to start with. And maybe in a year or two, if the DAO is doing well, then we'll transfer the rest of it, and we'll just disband the multi-sig. But that's why that multi-sig exists.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's really interesting. And speaking of one of the key holders, you had mentioned Sergey. One of the questions that we had actually received from some community members that reached out to us before this episode were they're curious about what the integration looks like for ENS with utilizing Chainlink CCIP. I'm not sure if you can kind of expand on that or touch on that, but that was one of the questions that we had received.
So, we're friends with Chainlink. I mean, Nick, the creator of ENS and the lead developer, I think he's personal friends with Sergey. They've done various things together over the years. I also am acquainted with Sergey. We like what they're doing. It's very important work. We use the ENS protocol actually uses Chainlink, the ETH to USD price oracle. So, for example, for .eth names, the registration fee is denominated in dollars, even though you pay in Ether, which means we need a price oracle. Originally, we used the MakerDAO oracle for a couple of years, and then like a year or two ago, we switched to the Chainlink oracle because that had come out. We just thought it had some improvements, and so we use Chainlink in the protocol itself. And then with CCIP, so ENS, where we want to start putting things on L2s, of course, and this has been something we've been working on for more than a year, almost a year and a half at this point. This stuff's very, very complicated work. And to do this, we've created a new protocol for off-chain to L1 communication. And we ended up partnering with Chainlink on this. And this has ended up just being a part of their whole CCIP read system. CCIP system. And this part that we've been partnering with them on is called CCIP read. And basically, it's a standard for if you're an application and all you know is Ethereum layer 1, well, you can use this certain standard gateway service basically to get information from other sources in a trustless way. And this should have use cases far beyond ENS. This is just a general purpose thing. Although we will be using it for ENS at first to let people store subdomains and records off chain, and then eventually other parts of ENS as well. But that's what we're doing there.
That's awesome. That's super fascinating. Thank you for answering my barrage of questions right there. Mewtwo, did you have a question you want to get in?
Yeah, Brandon, I was just curious, like from your perspective, like for the listeners, what new developments can they look forward to in 2022 for the rest of the year?
I am extremely excited about ENS for this year because we have some major improvements that I think will just take ENS to the next level. I mean, I think the DAO and the token launch was a key milestone in the history of ENS, and I think that went pretty well. It wasn't perfect, of course, with anything. You look back, oh, I would have done this differently, but I think we successfully got that done. It was critical to just really decentralizing governance of ENS. The next big thing that's like imminent is this L2 stuff with CCIP read. We actually just finished the EIP standard for CCIP read. We're doing some final implementation stuff, and we're going to start seeing some use of this, I think, in the next few weeks, potentially. Like maybe by the end of February, we might even see the first use. For the average person starting to use it, it's going to take some time to make it just easier, like adding support to our manager and things like this. But we're going to start seeing some projects, some people starting to use it here soon, hopefully. And that is extremely important to the future growth and success of ENS, just starting to put things off of layer 1. And this is just the first step, of course. Things will get other parts off of layer 1 over time as well, but this is just the first step. So that's huge. Another major project that we've been working on for many months is a total redesign of the manager app. If you've used DNS, register a name, we have a manager, it works fine, but there's a lot that, that we've learned, and we're completely redesigning it. We actually have a Twitter account dedicated to our design kind of people. It's design.ens.eth is what it's called, or at ENS Designer. And if you go there, we kind of post updates as we're going along. I'm super excited about it. I think this manager app, I so believe in our designers. I think this might even set new standards for how Web3 design is done. I'm very excited about it. I think that's going to be a quantum leap for ENS. Related to that is we're also making some smart contract changes around how ENS names work and how registrations work. Not the basic parameters, but some of the capabilities. For example, right now, when you register a .eth name, you register it, and it automatically sets up your record set and sets your ETH address. Well, with the new manager and with some smart contract upgrades, you know how you do one transaction, you wait a minute, and then you do a second transaction. Well, during that wait period, you're going to now be able to fill out your profile, set an avatar, all these things, and then when you do that second transaction, it's going to set up your entire profile all at once. So you're completely ready to go with everything. It'll be way easier. It's also, if you've registered a name, there's this extra step. You have to set your primary ENS name. It's like another transaction. It's kind of annoying. In the new manager and with the smart contract changes, that will be set by default automatically in the registration process itself. The logic there is a bit tricky because like if you already have one set, then it doesn't set automatically, but it'll make sense. Don't worry. That should make that much easier. We also have something called the name wrapper coming out, which is just an upgrade to the capabilities of ENS names in general. It's going to add like new features to make subdomains much more desirable. It's going to have some NFT capability upgrades. Anyway, so my expectation is that by the end of 2022, ENS might even feel like a different project. Like it's going to be so much better. That's what I think. That's what I'm hoping.
Let's go. I'm hyped, man. I'm already enjoying ENS, and I'm really just excited to hear that you guys are continuing to push the envelope, continuing to develop. And like you said, like this isn't a project that's going away. Like you guys are really here for the long term. We're setting it up for the long term and long term success of crypto. So it's awesome, Brantly.
Yeah.
Brantly, normally near the end of these shows, we like to bring on some audience members to ask some questions. Are you cool with that?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
All right, guys, if you want to ask questions, just hit that request button. We'll let people on one at a time. We got a few people popping up.
Apparently, while we're waiting for some people, I'm just curious, how many ENS domains do you own?
Good question. I don't know. I mean, you could look it up on chain.
You could have multiple wallets.
That's true. I don't really separate things out a huge amount. I have a couple wallets, but like most of my stuff like that's just in my main public one. I figure my stuff's public enough. I'm like, I should just not even really try to hide it. I have a bunch, but I have things like of celebrities, and I'm trying to get to them and things like that. And I have had some success with that, but there's some I'm still working on.
Welcome to the stage, Exando.
Thank you. And Brantly, I'm a huge fan of ENS, huge adopter.
Yeah. Hey,
and,
man.
I've been tracking you on Twitter, so you might have seen me post some stuff. And actually, my question is going to relate to a recent post that I made.
Oh yeah, were you the guy I said? Oh, I was going to say not going to make it, but then I saw you have a .eth name, and I held back.
No, not me.
that was not you. Okay, there was somebody. I said that to. Okay, good. I didn't say that to
cool.
you. Then. Good.
But this is an honor, and so thanks for bringing me up. So I recently bought .eth names for my entire family. I have a family of 4. Got a 9-year-old daughter, 9-year-old son, 14-year-old daughter, my wife, myself. So we all have ENS names. I bought NFTs to serve as avatars. I'm all in.
Woo.
So
Amazing.
So what I'm wondering is, what suggestions do you have for a family like us, or for families anywhere who wanted to get into ENS? They hear about Web3, they hear about NFTs. They're pumping. They want to be part of that action. They may not be serious crypto people, but they want to join in, right? They want to welcome themselves to Web3. What suggestions do you have for those type of families? I'm a little more technical, etc. But I really want more families to adopt it the way I have, because I think it's really beneficial. And my whole thing is, my kids are young, and in 10 years and in 15 years, when they're really at their peak and their control of their lives, Web3 is going to be dominating. So I want them to be ready, and I want to get them ready now. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, good. Woo. Love it. And I completely agree with you. It's funny. I think like a few months ago, I actually had a Twitter Spaces on like crypto parenting tips or something like this. It was kind of an interesting topic. Yeah, I mean, I think, look, I agree with you. I think Web3 is the future. It's inevitable at this point. This is clearly the future. And I think Web3 identities, ENS names and profile pics and things like this is the future. And I totally agree with you. I obviously have it for myself. I got a first name .eth for my wife, Krista.eth. I managed to snag that from somebody on OpenSea, and I got her a pixel portrait. I will say for my kids, I have 6 kids. And that would be a lot of first names to try to snag. So although children, if you're listening, I love you dearly, but not enough to try to get all your first names. So my plan with them is I successfully got our last name, so Milligan. So I have Milligan.eth, and I've actually made subdomains for some of the older ones who've asked about it, and I can just make subdomains for all of them. In fact, my older kids, I don't know if you've seen the ENS in real life thing, and my older ones have started like putting .eth names as their name on their papers at school, which is kind of cool. But yeah,
So,
I think it's totally the future.
yeah. So one idea that I had is, now I've got their ENS name with an avatar, and my son loves his. I still got to look for another NFT that my daughter will love. But, like when we tag stuff, like, okay, here's your school bag, here's your stuff. Like that's I'll put that on there. I mean, that's kind of how I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's people listening to this might think it's kind of crazy, but I don't, because I think we're just ahead of the curve, right? I think this is the future, and there's a lot of weird stuff happening in crypto, or at least stuff that seems weird, that it just hasn't gone mainstream yet. And I think that there's a lot often to be gained in crypto, as in many things, of being early, because you're prepared. You've got the names you want. You've got the things that you want. You're ready to go, rather than scrambling later.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming up. Good question.
Thanks for coming up, brother.
Hey, Brantly.
Welcome to the stage.
It's Mason here from A16Z. Just want to say we're big fans. And
hey, Mason.
Curious, I saw that there used to be a subdomains kind of marketplace contract where you could kind of like OpenSea sell your subdomains, but you had to revoke access to your domain and kind of give it up to the smart contract. I'm curious if there could be a way down the line where you could not give up access to your ENS name and still be able to sell subdomains. And then relatedly, I've seen an increase in subdomain-based DAOs, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on those as well.
Yeah, great topic. And you are right. A16Z, extremely impressive on being on the ball on these things. Like, I think I just tweeted this the other day. Like, there's a lot of A16 people with .eth names on Twitter, and it really stands out. With Ben Horowitz himself leading the way. I mean, it's incredible. Okay, so on subdomains, so yes. So here's what's going on. If you have a parent, if you have a name, any subdomains can be controlled by the parent domain, right? There's a hierarchy and authority. If you wanted to issue subdomains that you can't take away from people, the only way to do that is you give up control of the parent domain, like to a smart contract, which then nobody controls, and the smart contract issues subdomains, but you can't take them away because it doesn't have that function and nobody controls it. Okay, that's what you're talking about. And you're right. The negative thing is, well, you have to give up the second level. You have to give up the main domain, right? That's not very nice. So yes, we are working on, not only is it possible, we're actually working on something right now to enable exactly what you said, where you could issue subdomains that you can't take back, but you don't have to give up your normal domain. And we're working on the thing we're working on is called the name wrapper. You can go to our GitHub actually and look for the name wrapper repo. The code's mostly done. I think we need to get it audited, and it's going to be kind of folded into a bunch of the upgrades I mentioned earlier around other registration things and the new manager and things like this. But the name wrapper will do many upgrades to ENS names. But one of them is it will let you, like I said, issue subdomains that you can't take back without you giving up the main domain. The name wrapper will require a person to wrap old names. So like it's like you'll have to decide to upgrade to the name wrapper, then you'll have that new capability, but I think people will. And then we'll make it so that new names going forward are wrapped by default. So yes, I think that is something that could revolutionize how subdomains are offered to people.
That's awesome. Thank you.
You also asked something about DAOs and like DAOs using subdomains.
Yeah, like for instance, Sysmo is a DAO that's based around kind of minting subdomains for the DAO members. I think we'll see more of this. since that code's open source.
Oh, absolutely. I've been encouraging this for a while, and I'm glad I'm starting to see some groups do this. I've also seen it's like the cat country. It's like the per something country club, the PCC. They have PCC.eth, and they made their own web app where if you have one of their cat profile pics NFTs, and only if you have that, they will give you a subdomain and set the avatar to your cat automatically. And they have over 130 of their members have done this. It's incredible. And yeah, I've had this idea that subdomains could become I don't know, like badges of honor or like ways of flexing a little bit. What if the Uniswap DAO would give delegates, subdomains of uniswap.eth, and then that's the only way you could have gotten it was from doing that, and that's something you can kind of show off forever, yeah, I was in the Uniswap DAO or something like that. It's kind of like it's like an OG thing. Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more with subdomains once we have the name wrapper, and also once CCIP read comes out, enables the creation of subdomains off chain, which can make the cost either zero or near zero, depending on how you do it.
Thanks, Brantly. And I'll just add that if anyone's building cool stuff on ENS, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.
Yeah, Mason, what are you? So you're in the crypto section of A16Z?
Yeah, that's right. I'm on the deal team, but also
That's
doing
awesome.
some engineering and research too. I have a software engineering background.
Oh, wow. Are you guys specialized further within the crypto team, or you just all do all things crypto?
We have some loose specializations, but we really look at anything we want to in all of crypto.
That's awesome. It's very cool.
Very cool. Thank you, Mason, for coming on and asking that. Real quick, Brent, I have a question from one of our longtime listeners. He's asking if you have thought on building up the ENS community through physical meetup/events and not just online. And if so, do you have plans to have ENS representatives at future conferences/events?
I'd love to do in-person events. So pre-COVID in 2019, back in the day, there were tons of crypto events. I'll say, I personally went to a large number, and we had other people going to them too. And it was a key part of the whole crypto industry. Going to events and you see your friends and see people and meet new people, and it was a great thing. And then of course, COVID made it all go away. I think this year though, I expect to be almost like 2019 again. I mean, we had some events last year, and this year it's like there's tons of events planned. I know I personally plan on going to a lot of events. So I plan on being at ETH Denver. I just got tickets to go to Ethereum Rio in March. And I'm probably going to be going to Dev Connect and ETH Amsterdam in April, and many others the rest of the year. So I definitely want to meet people. In fact, to me, the events, it's all about meeting people. This is my philosophy about these events. Like the speaking and stuff, it's an excuse to get together, which is fine. But it's like there's no secret knowledge. Like I could be at home and I could listen to someone talk, or I could read a blog post or whatever. I don't need to go to an event to get, the information. But at the event, you can meet people and you can have incidental contact. Like you're in the food line and you meet some person there. You can build relationships with people at projects that would be maybe difficult to do online, and then that can carry on online. So I think it's critical. In terms of having like ENS specific events, I mean, I'm open to anything, and people want to organize it. We have a funding mechanism, through the DAO now. People could get funding if they want to put things on. I'd say, yeah, it'd be awesome.
Sweet. Yeah, Mewtwo and I are actually going to be out there at ETH Denver, so maybe we'll grab.
That'd be great.
Jordo, I hope that answered your question well.
Welcome to the stage, Mr. Yuck Sticker.
Hey, Brantly. Thanks, guys. Big fan of ENS. Brantly, my question goes to this. How I got really into ENS was after the DAO, and then I was contacted by a corporate company to secure their ENS name. And at this point, as we move forward in this discussion, is anybody looking at like point of sale tracking or any of that yet in ENS?
So you're saying you're working with a brand who wants to get their brand names.eth name.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely forward thinking. They see this as definitely they wanted it. We secured it, and as we look at like as I look at like what's coming, digital assets. Has anybody thought of like, is there anything now or discussions or even thoughts of like any kind of tracking of point of sale of transactions and to make this easier for them, like on a more, does that make sense? I don't know if that some way to track it for them easily. I don't know if I'm not very good at API. I don't know if this is easy on API, but does that help? Like a MoonPay integration to like a corporate wallet?
So you're saying tracking what? Tracking people paying them money? They can track it?
Exactly.
Okay, yeah. So ENS doesn't help with that. So the reason for that is that what ENS is just like a lookup system. Like if I send Ether, let's say to Brantly.eth, what's happening in the background, let's say I type it into MetaMask, I'm sending Ether to Brantly.eth. MetaMask looks up Brantly.eth on ENS on Ethereum. It finds my records, it grabs the Ethereum address that's stored there, comes back to the wallet, and then it sends it as a normal transaction to my address. So you actually technically you don't send to a name. You just it looks like you're sending to a name. Does that make sense? But if you're sending to an address, all that information is stored on chain and just normal blockchain information.
All right. Thanks, Brantly. I guess if I could give you an example, so if it would be like, if it isn't Pepsi.com, but if a company's going to port like Web 2 to Web 3, I guess I need to learn more. I'm still new. I'm basically securing these for them. And as we're all learning and
That's
growing
awesome.
and I don't want to ask any dumb questions. Huge fan, guys. Thank you for letting me take the time.
No,
But
these
I'll
are not
stop
dumb
there.
questions. Very important questions. Yeah,
All
I
right.
mean, so if let's say if Pepsi, imports Pepsi.com into ENS, I'd say a lot of things they could do with that. To me, I think the most useful thing probably to Pepsi is that they can then use that as the Web3 username for their Ethereum wallet. So then they can have like an Ethereum wallet that is identified very clearly as the Pepsi company's wallet. And like if they do actions in Web3, that wallet can be identified as Pepsi.com. I think that's very useful. Let's say if they issued NFTs. Well, we can all see, well, that was issued by Pepsi.com, the Ethereum wallet, Pepsi.com. I think that's really useful. But I think, we're going to see a lot of experimentation. A cool thing about ENS is that it's a very simple system that's open, and it doesn't require permission from anybody to do something new with it. So I think we'll see a lot of different experiments with it.
That answer your question, Mr. Yuck?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, and sir, thank you very much. Thank you for helping companies get an ENS. Really appreciate it. It's awesome.
Very based. All right, Brantly, got time for one more?
Sure. Yeah, one more. By the way, if you're bringing up another person, if you are out there and you work for a company that they want to secure their .eth name as a brand, and somebody of course maybe already has it, and you want help getting that, in the audience right now is Validator.eth. He is on the ENS core team, and he is an expert in tracking down who has the name, negotiating it. Just so you know, we've actually intentionally fostered a culture of gifting of brand names. Like, don't try to, hold out for tons of money. Just, actually proactively gift .eth names to brands. And Validator.eth actually has done this so much. He used to have the nickname back in the day of the ENS Fairy. Like, he's literally the ENS Fairy. He's an expert in this. So if you need help, contact him, and he will do the best he can to help you out. And we've helped out tons of celebrities and brands get their .eth names. We can't promise, success, but Validator.eth would be the best person to help you.
Welcome to the stage, Uber.
It's showing he's connecting for me.
Oh, shit. Appearing for me. All right, we'll give him a second. But while Uber's pending, Brantly, just really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come on and speak to us, man. It's been awesome.
Yeah, no, thanks for the invite. Are we
Plus,
gonna do this one more person, or are we done?
I think he dropped. I think that's it, guys. Just
also,
appreciate the time, Brantly.
we do record these and put them on YouTube and Spotify and so on. Are you okay with that?
Of course, yeah. And whoever got dropped, I also I do Twitter Spaces regularly, so we could bring you on another time. Also, our Discord, is 24/7. We have a great community there. If somebody has a question about something or an idea or anything, go there. The Discord's the best place for that.
Awesome. Everyone stay based. Appreciate everyone tuning in and listening. And Brantly, where can they follow you and stay up to date? Obviously, the Discord, you have your Twitter, you have a newsletter, anything like that?
Yeah, I would say just follow me on Twitter. And then if you want to know more about ENS, go to ens.domains.